Hi, I hope you're doing well. This is the time of the year when I start getting a lot of emails from people saying, I'm feeling burned out. I can't keep up with the chores and the homeschool planning and lessons and everything else that is going on in my life. Help. And so I'm here to share with you a few things that I've learned about how to find this balance to take care of yourself, which is so important, also to prep for your homeschool and to plan, and then to present lessons and keep up with everything else in your life. So let's start by identifying the problem. Okay, how do we make time for prepping and self-care when we have so many other things to do, so many competing priorities? Well, let's talk about that. Okay, step number 1, clock out. Okay, you either need to leave your home or you need to stay home and figure out a way of getting your children out of your home. Okay? Yes, we love our children and we also need time away from them. So if you can get out, I would recommend doing that. And this is not getting out so you can do the groceries on your own without kids. Grocery shopping, we'll talk about it in a bit, is not self-care. It's not clocking out. I want you to leave your house. So when I started homeschooling and I started getting really burned out because I was with my children, literally 24/7. And then on the weekends, I also had to be with my children, be with my husband, take care of the house, plan and prep. It was chaos. And so I decided, against my husband's wishes, I decided to leave the house for 4 hours on Saturday mornings. And I didn't even tell him where I was going. I didn't ask for permission. I just said, this is what I need to do. And I did it. And I didn't tell him where I was going because I didn't want him to show up and drop off the kids, because this was putting him out of his comfort zone, right? So I would either take myself and have breakfast and then go for a walk. Some days I would just go to the library and sit down and just relish the silence and read a book. And it really took a lot of work to not feel guilty. Okay, and so what I want you to do is understand that your work as a stay-at-home parent, your work as a homeschooler has value. And you need to value your work so that you can value your rest. Otherwise, you're going to feel guilty. So I heard about a study that was done recently where they determined how much a stay-at-home parent would make if they got paid for everything that they did over the course of, 16 hours a day that we work. And what they determined was that a stay-at-home parent, not taking into account homeschooling, okay, a stay-at-home parent would make the equivalent of $125,600 a year. Okay. Now, think about that in terms of if you work for a company or if you're an entrepreneur and you are making $125,000 a year, would you then think, okay, I deserve some rest because I'm bringing in all this money into my family. So I deserve vacations. I deserve rest time on weekends, right? So that I can continue bringing in that money to my family. All right. So we're not bringing in that money in the sense that we're not seeing it in our bank account, but the value of your work is tremendous. And the only way that you're going to continue being able to contribute to your family in this way is if you rest and you take care of yourself. Okay. So what's your objection? Why aren't you doing this? What is the story that you're telling yourself about why you cannot put your rest as a top priority? Okay. Think about your objection. What is that story saying? Maybe you say, if I leave, then the whole thing will fall apart. If I leave, then my children will be, in mortal danger. If I leave, nobody else is going to do this. And then I'm going to have a backlog of things to do when I come home. And then once you figure out what your story is, then we need to address it, right? And so this is like a topic for a whole other talk, but let's talk about what you're going to be doing while you are resting and rebooting. Okay, so point number one, is your rest sucking the energy out of your soul or strengthening the energy in your soul? So what I mean by that is when you do decide to rest, are you numbing and avoiding getting back in touch with yourself. So are you spending too much time on social media? Are you just, flicking through the channels on TV and not even enjoying a good movie or a good show? Why are you doing that if that is what you're doing? Are you doing it because you feel guilty that you're resting? Are you doing it because you don't even know how to rest anymore? Think about those things. Now, like I said, chores are not rest. Okay. I love doing the dishes and putting on my headphones, my noise canceling headphones, and putting on a podcast and doing the dishes. That, however, is not rest. I do not consider that rest. And I want you to keep that in mind. I hear a lot of people saying, oh, I went grocery shopping without the kids and it was like a vacation. No, it is not. Okay. So keep that in mind. Plan some real rest. If the thought of all of the chores in your house is overwhelming you and not allowing you to rest, outsource. Okay. I fought so hard against outsourcing because I thought that I could do everything and I should be able to do everything. And there was a lot of guilt around outsourcing. And then I hired somebody to help me just 2 hours every other week. Okay. So it's like minimal, right? 2 hours every other week. And it has totally transformed my life. And so please outsource, delegate to your kids, delegate to your partner, get somebody to help you because you deserve to rest. And point number three in our rest and reboot section is seek pleasure, right? You want to change your environment. Go somewhere where you normally would not. And this doesn't mean that you have to spend a ton of money. You can go to the library, you can go to a coffee shop and just hang out. You can go to a garden, right? Just, go to a botanical garden and just hang out. Find a place that's going to stimulate your senses, a place that will allow you to be more yourself, a place where you will be able to do something that helps you to feel more like you. Okay. Now, let's jump over to step number 3, planning. Okay, once we have rested and we have found a little bit more energy, we want to think of homeschool planning as your job. Okay, this is not a luxury. This is a responsibility. This is part of how you are contributing to your family, because homeschooling is a value that your family chose. And so you are contributing to it. It is important. It is your job. So with that in mind, I want you to make an appointment with yourself. So let's think about it this way. Okay. I do therapy every week. So I have an appointment with my therapist and I pay her and I show up, right? If I don't show up for that appointment, she charges me. Okay. So why are we not showing up for ourselves? Why are we putting our needs last? If we prep and if we plan, then we're going to have a much more enjoyable time when we're working with our children. So why are we not prioritizing that? Why are we leaving that to kind of scattered 5-10 minute intervals during the day? What is that saying about how we value ourselves? So make an appointment with yourself, show up, and do it every day. It doesn't have to be 3 hours of planning once a week if that is too overwhelming. Show up for yourself 45 minutes every day. And when you are planning, I want you to think about depth over breadth. So what do I mean by that? I want you to, instead of thinking that every week you have to cover geometry, geography, history, etc., I want you to become an expert on one subject per week. So here's how we're going to do it. You're going to think, okay, week number 1, we're going to do geography. And you're going to start with just a simple lesson. And we'll talk about simple lessons in a second. We're going to start with a simple lesson on geography. And then I'm going to also have a couple of short language and math activities, lessons planned during the week. Okay, so that's all you need to do is a math lesson, a language lesson, and a geography lesson. Okay, that's all that you need to plan for the beginning of your week. As you make progress during the week as you present those things, then you're going to start noticing that your child either needs more support or wants to dive in deeper or has an idea that you need to help them with. And so that is really going to inform how you plan for the rest of the week. It makes no sense what you see on Instagram, people who are planning for an entire year or for, a couple of months even, and then they do all this work and then they realize that their child is either no longer interested or needs extra support or wants to go in a totally different direction. So I'm going to remind you of Murphy's Law of homeschooling, which is that the more effort that you put into preparing a material for a lesson, the more elaborate your material and your follow-up work is, the more likely it is that your child is not going to be interested. Okay, so we all have to learn that the hard way. So go ahead, learn that the hard way, and then reevaluate your strategy. Okay, start with something really simple. So a lesson can be as simple as a little story that you make up or that you pull from your albums or from the timeline, along with a couple of pictures, right? Because we want the children to be able to see things so that they can imagine things. And then just a very simple follow-up. And a follow-up can be as easy as identifying things in the environment. Let's say you're doing angles. Your follow-up can be having your child explore angles in the environment, label angles in the environment. How much prep work is that? Almost nothing, right? The same could be done for any subject. If you have older children, for example, they're studying history, a follow-up activity is go read a book about it and let's have a conversation, right? Do a read aloud about the topic and have a conversation. If you see that your child is then really interested in a topic, that's when you can start diving deeper. But please don't spend countless hours creating all of these materials from scratch with little felt things and, beautiful little, knickknacks. And it's too much work and it's not worth it unless your child is truly interested. And then my last suggestion in terms of how you can coordinate these different subjects is try to integrate them. Try to think about how you can integrate language into topics like geography or history, right? Labeling is a really great way of doing it, or writing sentences and then analyzing them with the grammar symbols. So for example, you could say, the right angle has a 90-degree angle, and then your child can symbolize it. Boom, right there. They have done language and they've done geometry. And so you don't have to make it complicated. Keep it simple and then just follow what your child is into. The most important thing that I want you to take away from this is that we need balance, right? Rest is necessary for you to have energy for planning. It's necessary for you to have energy for being present with your children. And rest is necessary for you to have the energy so that you can work and keep up with the rest of your life. So please take the time to rest. You can find the time if it's a priority for you and if you believe that you are worth taking the time to rest. I love you. Take care of yourself. And please rest. Bye.